Welcome to the Arts to Hearts podcast, a show for artists, creators, creative entrepreneurs to have heartfelt conversations about living a creative life and a career. As you go into this show, hear your favorite creators talk about money, mindset, business, creativity, and everything else that goes behind into making a life that we all adore as an artist. Hear the messy and the wonderful side of being a creative. I am your host, Charika Arora, an artist, creator, and founder of Arts to Hearts project. Thank you for joining me here. Let's jump right in. Hello, Marina. How are you?
Hi. I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Like I said a million times by now, before we've even started recording, I've heard such wonderful conversations and things about you from people on the podcast, from my friends, and so many people. And I'm really, really looking forward to have you on the podcast and have a conversation with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. You have interviewed some amazing people, and I'm just honored to be like part of the community.
Absolutely. You were always a part of the community, even before you knew it.
Yeah, that's
We've
right.
spoken about
Exactly.
you.
Love it.
So anyone who's listening, I think you and I have already spoken for more than 40 minutes, even before we started recording.
Yeah, we had quite a warm up. I mean, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I was late because it's like genetic. I think I have like a genetic thing for being late.
Is it? So
Not
you've
too
not
late.
heard what Indians are. So Indians are actually like stereotyped for never being punctual. And a lot of people
Oh,
stand by that for some reason.
okay.
Like they make that's true.
Wow. So while we were warming up for the podcast, Sharika was telling me, oh, well, you should really come to India because you like all these Indian things. And, this just underlines this. I would really fit in.
Oh, definitely. Now you started like you know about Indian worshipping idols. You're doing all of that. I think this is something that I feel like is a very untouched topic. So I'm born in India. I'm a Hindu by religion, if that matters at all. But I think a lot of times we feel like where we're born and the religion or the spirituality, whatever we choose or we have been passed down, is something that we have to. I think there's this have to, that this is who you are. Instead, sometimes we are not just one thing, we're so much more than one. And sometimes it's about this or that. And I think I just love when I explore a lot what happens outside of India, what happens outside of Hinduism. And I do love a lot of things that I have in my own culture. But there are also, like everybody, there are things that you may not believe in, or you choose to look further. And I think I love when there's this intercultural change where we're all continuously learning from each other and like making this like a more, like, I think it also makes you better equipped, like you shift perspectives. I don't know if that makes sense at all. I don't know why I'm saying that.
No, I think it totally makes sense. My husband also does stand-up comedy, and
Oh wow.
he always joke he has a joke about me. He goes, my wife, she's appropriating all the cultures. um, and when he says it, it's much funnier than when I say it, but
But it's a great
basically,
job.
yeah. But basically, I totally agree with you. I have been dipping my toes into, like I mentioned to you, a little bit of Kundalini.
Yeah.
Um, I am a certified Reiki 2 practitioner. I
Wow.
also am a certified classical Chinese feng shui
Oh
practitioner.
wow.
And so I basically I'm really into the East, I guess.
Oh wow. You've given a lot that I couldn't find on the internet. That's nice to
Yes.
know. So apart from being in the arts and this is something like that you could be if you were not where you are today.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've always been using these spiritual tools for my personal business, and lately I've been trickling them into the artists who I'm working with. If they're
Yes.
receptive to it, I'm happy to share these tools with them. And
Okay.
so recently, I've been more comfortable coming out of the spiritual closet, so
Yeah.
to speak. And you know, this is something that I really want to start to utilize. So now when you go to my website, there is a feng shui option. So I could do,
Yeah.
organize your, or not necessarily organize your space. Actually, feng shui is not about organizing, but I've worked with artists and gallerists on feng shui as
Yeah.
well. So for their
Wow.
studio, for their gallery, and I have such a fun story I would love to share with you about that. Um,
Absolutely.
so I walked into my friend's gallery here in New York City, and I'm thinking, oh, you know what? I'll just do her feng shui real quick. It's Saturday, it's quiet, it's basically a box. So, how difficult could it be? It's just like a perfect square almost. So, it's not too complicated, there's not too much demarcation. So, I did this for her, and just to keep her privacy, I won't tell you who it is, but
Yeah.
I asked her, I was like, hey, did you get into a fight with a woman here? Because it was in the feng shui. And she goes,
Oh my
yes, actually,
God.
my business partner and I, when we opened this gallery, we got into a tiff, and she, we're fine now, but she doesn't work here anymore.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
that was in the feng shui. And then I said to her, hey, does artwork not sell on those walls, but it sells on those walls? And she was like, yeah, that's so insane. And
Oh my
so,
God.
so I told her, I was like, okay, look, feng shui is not 100% going to be the full luck that you get. It actually, in feng shui, you have three types of luck. You have the luck that you are born with, so like your karma, so to speak, the luck you create with your hard work, and then the luck that your environment brings you, right?
Okay.
So what a feng shui only enhances what you are working towards, right? So just because artwork doesn't usually sell on those walls doesn't mean it never will, right?
Yeah.
But I also decided, I was like, well, I'll do her home too, because why not? We
Yeah.
still have, we're hanging out on Saturday. And so I did her home, and she asked me, she goes, Marina, I just really want to make money. What can I do? And so I told her a few things, but one unusual thing was, I said, well, you need more metal in the bedroom. Either get a metal bed or metal nightstands. And I said to her, and if you get a metal bed, don't get the bed with the slats, because the slats, they actually cut into your auric field when you're sleeping. And so it's not very good. So, but she said, well, I don't even have the money to get new furniture right now. It's really intense. And I said, well, whatever it is, anything that has metal, just bring it into your bedroom.
Oh my
And she
God.
and she said to me, well, and you could tell this person was very creative. She goes, what if I put aluminum foil under my bed?
Oh
And
my
I said,
goodness.
well, I never really thought of it, but it's actual metal, so maybe that'll work. And so she resisted a little bit, because, with feng shui, there's always a little bit of resistance when you first get told to do something, because uh, real feng shui, what it does is it helps you align with your soul's purpose. And when you don't, when you're too kind of almost uncomfortable aligning with it, your personality keeps you in check, and it says, no, we can't move your bed, or no, we're not going to move your desk, or whatever. But eventually she really needed the money. So she put aluminum foil under her
Yeah.
mattress.
At least take that risk. Like,
And
why not?
yeah, why not? Right? She was like, what do I have to lose except for this aluminum foil?
Fun. Yeah. I mean,
So So she, then 6 days later, and I didn't ask her for specifics because she could have started negotiating it sooner, but 6 days later made the biggest sale her gallery has ever made.
Wow.
So, it could be coincidence or it could be feng shui.
Oh my
So,
God.
and, I have to say, like, the reason I started practicing feng shui was because I started my company, the Artist Advisory, in a different apartment in New York City that was much smaller. And my business was literally the only area I could use was the part of my kitchen where there was like a table, like the Eden part. And I wanted to make it cute. I wanted to design it, but I had no idea what to do. And so I remembered, there's something called feng shui. And,
Oh
and I
my
started
God.
to really look into it. And once I dove into it, I really went deep. And
Wow.
I didn't. At first I started to look at very general feng shui, but then I realized it was very it wasn't the best. And then I went and I got a certification in Flying Star Sen Yen Feng Shui.
Oh
So,
wow.
which is like, I want to say it's like astrology for your house because it's so precise, the calculations. But I got to say, the moment I put everything into place according to those calculations, my business went full time.
Wow.
And everything just went so much smoother. So ever since then, if there's an artist I work with and they're open to it, I am so happy to do feng shui for their studio
Oh
or for their
wow.
home. Yeah.
I love that. This is something I've never heard. I'm hearing this for the first time, and I feel pretty excited about it. Like I think and I think this is something that I think as a creative I've learned, especially having like a regular creative practice and something like that, because I started to understand as an artist you have nobody looking over your head and nobody taking decisions for you. You take your decisions for yourself, and that isn't only about you know I've been in both the places, like building spaces for organization or being in an organization and being on my own. And I switch those roles every day in my life on day-to-day basis. And I realized, it's so much, there's so much that's already done when you work with someone, for someone, because they're already taking care of your needs and, making sure that you are being productive or you're getting the best out of you and everything like that. But when you're on your own, especially as a creative, it's you have to decide what's your structure, how you bring the maximum out of you, how are you like. So even having like a morning ritual, I never knew that I could, I needed that until I pursued the path of being like an artist who was spending a lot of time creating by myself. And I was like, I need something to keep myself in check, something emotionally in check, also keeping me motivated. Or like having studio rituals, like when you go into the studio, what are the things like. So like this is another layer that I've not really heard about, but as someone who knows how important these things are to me as an artist when I'm having a certain kind of like creative practice, knowing that there are also things like were like like what you said, it's I think it's incredible.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. And it's so important to make it a holistic thing because you know, I'm not a creative in the same sense that a visual artist is.
I think you are.
But, well,
Come
thank
on.
you.
Come on. Tell me,
Uh,
look at your website, look at your branding, look at
yes.
your
Yes.
business, look at your
Well, thank you.
fashion.
Thank you.
How are you not a creative? Oh, you are 100% creative.
I feel, yes, no, I am a creative. Fine, I'll accept it. I am a creative, and uh, and I feel very creative in my business.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really helps me get grounded, because when you're creating something, you have a
Yeah.
million ideas. right?
Yeah.
And there's so many things you want to do. And you are thinking, well, I don't know if I even have all the time in the world to do this. How am I even going to get it done? So it's important to create these systems in which you can get everything done. And I could even share one with you, but I heard you say that you had a morning ritual, and
Yeah.
that is the absolute most important part of these sorts of systems.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious, you're
Absolutely.
interviewing me, but I want to know
No.
what your morning ritual is.
Um, so I'll be very honest. Like we were also having this conversation even without like before recording. So when I was like I feel like I grew up and I was like naturally, and I don't believe that anymore. Like I think we're naturally nothing. We frame ourselves into who we are. So while I was growing up, I was always like an all-nighter. I was best when my mind would work like at night because there was a lot of peace, like things like that. And I figured that I'm someone who needs a lot of time by myself. I can't work like when there is too much noise around me. I need time by myself to understand what's happening, be it night or early morning. But when I started having like a studio practice, being like a creative, like self-employed like this is a very isolating journey. Like it's very isolating. So I figured that, I felt, and as my goals were growing, my work was growing, and I think the when I started to work with more and more people, I think like even with the podcast or team or like other people, like there was so many things that were happening, and I needed to make sure that I was accommodating her, and I didn't want to show up on calls and to my work also exhausted and sleepy and like stuff like that. I realized I needed to wake up early in the morning because this definitely wasn't working. And it took me a really long time first to just build that ritual of waking up early. The moment I started waking up early, I knew that I didn't know what to do. I mean, I would get up and then I would move around and then I would sleep back. And then I figured, okay, then I remember I did Arthur's Way and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So now it's been a
Yes,
couple of
Julia Cameron.
years.
Sorry, go ahead.
No way. Now I wake up, I just make sure I can do three things. I wake up in the morning, I want to do yoga. The second thing I want to do is, and I not only have like, I sleep on meditation and I wake up and I do yoga. I do guided meditation with my yoga guru, and then I do my guided. I love Abraham Hicks. I love to listen her in the morning. The
Yes.
next thing I do is I listen a couple of audios videos from her. The third thing that I do is journal. So I want to do my morning pages. I haven't been the best because my in the last few days, but I think I the day every day I do this, I know how much good I am feeling in my life, how much clearer I am feeling, how much better. And I think, like you said, having a structure, like in any form, like even in my studio, in my life, I think it makes me feel so much safe mentally and then creative. I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yes, 100%. And that's such a beautiful morning practice, beautiful ritual. Because, when you wake up in the morning, in a way, we're all very, very lucky and so abundant when it comes to this because we get to choose what we want to do in the morning. And how are we going to structure that day, right? For those of us
Yeah,
who aren't going straight to a job, which I did for many, many, many years, I feel so lucky to even be able to do a ritual like
right.
this, right? But
That's
I
true.
think that it's so cool that it almost is like checking your email when you get into your office job because you are structuring your day from this ritual.
Yeah, and I hate that one. One thing that I really took me a long time, and I think one thing I still hate myself the day I do that is pick up my phone and open it that first in the morning. I know I'm screwed because this is what I'm doing wrong. I don't want to be doing that. Like,
Yeah.
learn. Okay,
Yeah.
you tell me yours. First, okay,
Okay.
yeah, let's go with that. I'll ask my second question after that. Let me hear yours.
Okay. Okay. So I have this a kind of a shorter morning ritual. I imagine yours takes a little bit longer, but I'm very interested in doing yoga in the morning. I'm almost there. It's really
Testing,
hard to get myself to
testing.
exercise. Okay. So the first thing I do is I open up a voice memo on my phone and I record a voice memo in 3 parts. What I'm grateful for in the present tense, what my intention for the day is, as if it already happened. So, for example, if you're an artist and you want to do this, you could say something like, well, I sold 3 paintings today, or whatever it is, right?
Oh,
And
so
then,
you're actually saying like you've already done it.
exactly, yeah. And because when you do that and your mind hears it, your mind is very gullible. It believes everything you say. So when you do that and you say as if you've already done it, your mind feels a lot more comfortable getting into that space, right?
Yeah.
And I want to. Okay, so let me. I'm like, what do I tell you first? Okay, and so the third part of this voice memo are my future desires, my big long-term goals, as if they're already happening. So, for example, um, if you're an artist, you could say something like, well, I'm represented by a gallery in LA, in New York, and in Paris, or whatever it is. And so, again, because your mind is so gullible, it believes everything you say. And there's a wonderful book about this called Your Word is Your Wand. It's from like the 1920s or 30s. So it's really funny to read. But the point of it is that we end up using these words like try or could, right? They become passive. So when we say, I'm going to try to do that, your mind already thinks, well, maybe I won't actually be able to do it,
Oh, wow.
right? And then it gives you an out.
Yeah.
But part of the reason for that second part of the morning practice, where I say my intentions for the day are, as if I've done them already, is because it helps my ego feel comfortable reaching the upper limit. And
Yeah.
I want to. And have you heard of this? Have you
Upper
read
limit one. Yeah.
Gay?
Yes.
I love Gay Hendricks. So there's a book for those of you who haven't read it. It's called The Big Leap. And
Maybe.
for the artists that I work with, I always advise them to read this book. It's like required reading.
I think him, Elizabeth Gilbert, Julia Cameron, these three people, and I think author of the War of Art. I forgot his name.
Stephen Pressfield.
Yes. Oh my God. Like I feel like
Yes, he got me through my master's thesis.
I don't think what I would do without them. I keep coming back
Yeah.
to them. Keep coming back to them.
I know. I really want to read The Big Leap again. But the
Same here.
principle of that book is that, our ego, it operates between these two parallel lines, the baseline and the upper limit. And the
Yeah.
baseline is everything that we're used to, and we can't fall below it because we feel uncomfortable, right? We
Yeah.
know that we're going to have to make our housing payment or eat a certain type of food. We won't do anything less. And so we find ways not to fall below the baseline because it doesn't feel comfortable below it. So once we approach the upper limit, which are our biggest goals, right? For me, it's going on Oprah. So,
Oh, you
as we
will.
approach these goals, it feels a little bit uncomfortable, and we start
Yeah.
to self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And that's that nervous feeling you get when somebody might reach out to you and offer you a big opportunity and you're thinking, I don't even know how to respond to this, right?
I know.
um,
I love
so
this.
that sort of morning practice where you record that memo, that
I'm going
voice
to try this
memo.
one.
So first part is what you're grateful for, second
Grateful
in the
for.
present tense. Second part is what your intention for the day is, as if it already happened. And third part are your long-term intentions, long-term goals, as if they're happening. And I got this morning practice from a really wonderful, I don't know, magical queen, Gala Darling. And
Yes. Oh, yes.
yeah,
I follow her.
yeah. So she's really amazing. And I've been doing this now for 3 years, this morning
Wow.
practice. And so that's one part of my morning. The next thing is I do an EFT tapping. Uh,
Oh, wow. I love that too. I
yeah,
started doing this as well, but only on days when I'm too stressful. And I don't know if you know Kat.
yes,
She taught
yes,
me that. And I think,
yes.
oh, I love that.
It is the best tool we could have. And, yes, it's so good to just tap when you're feeling stressful, right? And for those of you who are watching, I also even say, there are 10 or 11 points on your body. You tap here on top
Yeah.
of your head. I do it with two hands. Some people do it with one. On top of your eyebrows, the side of your eyes, under your eyes, over here,
Yeah, yeah.
over there on your clavicles, and then where your
Yeah.
bra would be over here, and
Yeah.
then like this. And
Yeah.
so when you're doing this tapping, when you start on the karate chop point, you're programming out something that feels bad. So when you're having anxiety or anything, that overwhelming feeling in the beginning of the day, or sadness, or whatever you want to get rid of, you can tap here. But you don't have to go through the full thing,
Well,
because sometimes you don't even have the time. So at the very least, when you're having these feelings, just tap here and say, even though I'm feeling so anxious about something.
can you also mention the moment for people who are not listening, like not viewing, but listening to the podcast?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So good point. So basically, you would tap on the karate chop point. It is between the start of your pinky and your wrist on the side of your hand, right?
Yes.
And you tap there to get rid of something, to get rid of an emotion. And there are times when, you're in public and you feel an overwhelming negative emotion you want to get rid of. So I always tell the artists I work with or my clients, just tap here and say, and there's a script you can follow. So
Yeah.
even though
Done that.
insert the negative feeling, I deeply and completely love and respect and forgive myself. And so when you tap there and you say that, you don't even have to say it out loud. You could think about it, right? Then you can remove that feeling. I've even done this when I'm looking for parking spots, and in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm never going to find one. I'm never going to find one. And then I sit there at the red light and I do my little tapping on my karate chop point, and boom, I see a spot, because I was already having this confirmation bias that I
Oh my
wasn't going to.
God.
But
Oh my
the
God.
wonderful thing about tapping is also, if you have a good feeling that you want more of, you can
Yeah.
tap more of that in. So you don't have to start on this karate chop point. You can actually just start at the top of your head and say, hey, I'm feeling so good today, and just go through the full thing. I wanted to just say that I always think of, okay, well, what feeling do I want to lean into today? And I do a 2 or 3 minute tapping through it. So it's the voice memo, the tapping, and then I really like to go for a little walk with my
What?
dog to
Yeah.
the a bakery next to us and get like my favorite pastry. But that doesn't always happen because my dog
Yeah.
walks really slow and I might have a meeting. But I gotta
Logistical
say,
errors.
logistical errors. We got to work this one out. Can't tap it out. Okay. But, even if you can't get to a morning ritual in the morning, you can get to it any time of the day to center
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
really valid, and I think that's something that really changed my perspective and why I became so more committed with, like being an artist or being a creative. And like I said, you're also creative. You definitely are, and these are things that I think how we always choose our lives to be. Like we have these expectations of how things how our ideal lives would be. And I like there's definitely another angle, another way of things happen. And the moment I got introduced to things like these, and I was like, this is it. I mean, this is really how I want to live a life.
Yeah.
And there are very few people who actually integrate like mm, an approach like this that's just not skill based, in the sense that if you're an artist advisor, let's say, you're not just focusing on um, the P&Ls, or like how much you're making, how much you're losing, how much money you're putting in the business, how much you're selling or you're marketing. And I feel like
Yeah.
even though those skills are definitely important, I think the biggest block when you take a jump and you want to take a leap is your mindset, and how to get control of your mind, and how to believe in yourself more, or how to create that, not only the physical environment, I feel like the mental environment. And I can speak for myself for sure. I've had terrible 2 years in my life, and in spite of that, I've been like, maybe I haven't had my best speed, how I would have expected, but I've still made through. I've done a lot. If I didn't have that infrastructure, if I didn't have these practices, and I do get off the rails a lot of times, but I know I start feeling like I'm at that position today. I've been off my chart for a couple of days, weeks, and I know that that feeling is coming back, that I don't feel good, and I know what I need to do now. And that has made so much of my difference. My question is, what there are a lot of artist advisors, business advisors, art consultants, like, things like that. You're, of course, one of them. But you're different. I see that, especially when I'm speaking to you. What brought you here when you combining not only these marketing, or like, things like that, but this perspective of also building this sustainable and supportive and uplifting, not only physical environment but also mental infrastructure for the business, which is their creative zone. What brought you here? Why this?
Oh, that is such a beautiful question. And thank you so much for asking it, because I truly am driven by the answer here. So was working in galleries in New York City for 15 years, from 2004 to 2016, for almost 15 years, to 2016, 2017, 2017. So 14. I don't know. You do the math.
Yeah.
This isn't a
Oh,
math
I'm not
podcast.
the yeah,
Um,
I'm not the right person. I'd be more terrible than anyone
yeah.
else can be.
Yeah, I like to have a calculator and an Excel to calculate. Okay,
No, I can't even operate
so
in Excel.
oh well, you know, it's I feel like I follow people on Instagram who are like, look at my Excel trick, and I'm like, why is the algorithm showing me this? Anyway, so I worked in galleries for nearly 15 years in New York City. I worked in a museum as well, and while I was meeting a lot of like really cool people in the art world and worked for really amazing people, I did see that a lot of artists got the runaround, and it broke my heart, because there were artists that would literally, I was a gallery director and for very almost 7 years, and there were times when an artist would walk in off the street with their beautiful work of art and expect us to suddenly like take a look at it. And while you know back maybe in the 70s this was okay to
Oh,
do, or in the
yeah.
80s, and there's actually a good example of somebody who has done something like that. And that's Ivan Karp, who had a gallery in Soho in New York City, opened it next to Leo Castelli in
Yeah.
the 1970s. And he would always, always, if an artist walked in, he would look at their portfolio, he would talk to them, he would listen to them, and give them really clear, honest advice. And I
Yeah.
actually witnessed him do this when I was 18 years old and I was studying art history here in New York City. And one of my classes was a seminar where I had to, I guess I wasn't 18. Wow. I was a senior in college, so I was 20 years old. So, because I went into college a little early. Anyway, so I, one of the seminars was to study the art world in New York City, and we would walk around. We would each be assigned a neighborhood in New York City to give a gallery tour of to our class. And we would interview the people in the galleries if they spoke to, if they were so kind to speak to us about the structure of the gallery and all this stuff. And so I
I
was
love this
walking in
exercise. Way ahead of that
to,
time.
it was so cool. It was like the most valuable
Yeah,
class. It was literally the only class out of going to college and graduate school and studying art history. This was the most valuable class because it did teach me a lot about the art world before I even worked in it. And also, or I guess I was already interning somewhere, but it was so crucial. So just seeing this really, really important gallery owner give their feedback to the artist was so amazing. So anyway, I really hated to see artists get the runaround. And I realized, hey, with the internet, we can do so many things. Artists can decide how they're presenting their work, what is known about them. They truly get to curate their image. And on top of it, they get to connect to anyone and everyone.
yeah,
You can message a museum director on Instagram. Not that I would tell you to, right? That's not a
yeah,
great idea, but that this is the thing. You can find almost anyone's email. You
yeah,
can, if you approach them properly, if you kind of create this relationship. I always say to artists, try to build an organic relationship with
yeah,
someone on social media, and then then you can go into a more concrete working relationship. But really, it fascinated me. You could really get in front of anyone. So I started this company, the Artist Advisory, to give honest answers to artists, to give them guidance. And one of my very first sessions, I actually did a month of free sessions when I started this business because I wanted to really see what the business would look like.
yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I did that because one of the artists that I gave a session to said to me, he's like, "Hey, Marina, you're like a guidance counselor for the art world." And I said, "Yes. Oh my gosh, this is the best marketing thing ever. Like, this is a great slogan." So I've kind of been using that. But, I always wanted to give clarity to visual artists because that kind of thing was never taught in school. So, yeah.
I
And
love
even if you
that.
didn't go to art school, you should get this sort of clarity anyway. It's
Yeah,
an industry like anything else. And if I know so much about it, about being on the other side, I'm so grateful that I could speak up for the artist, so to speak.
yeah, I love that. I was also
Stand up
looking at your website, and I think there's a lot of good content out there, even on the website for sure. But tell me something. What do you think is one of the most important things for artists to look out in today's time? Anyone who wants to move further in their careers. Um,
Yeah.
if I were to ask, like, if let's say if it's me, if I'm asking you, Marina, what is that one thing you would tell me, anything that could be, that I should focus on? I want to grow, I want to be successful, I want to be creative. What would that
Right.
be?
Well, look, this is another excellent question. Wow, you're like so good at this. Um, so, so here's the thing. Ultimately, it's how you present yourself, but it all goes back to your intention because you want to be consistent with your message before you decide how you present yourself, right?
Right.
So here's the thing. You need to really figure out what your intention is. And one of the most critical things that I teach the artists that I work with, I also have been helping some businesses as
Yeah.
well. So I've been working with a curatorial project, I've been working with sort of a gallery. I've been working with businesses that are service-based as well,
Yeah.
and online, but all run by creatives, right? And that's the
Yeah.
common denominator here. But this is something I tell to every single person. And I'm not the one who came up with it, really, because, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Simon Sinek, and he
Yeah.
had a wonderful TED Talk about why, right?
Yeah.
So, but let me back up here. I love to over explain. So, when it comes to visual artists, specifically visual artists, I always tell them we have to come up with your elevator pitch, because that's going to outline your intention, and it's going to be in your message everywhere. It's going to show up on social media. It's going to show up on your website. It's going to be the answer when somebody asks you, what do you do? And it's going to be the first thing that you will say during a studio visit. And this is, there's a very clear formula that I have developed
Okay.
for the elevator pitch.
Okay.
And so, first, you don't tell people what you do, you tell them
Okay.
why you do it. So, say why you do it. Then you want to say why you're qualified to do it. Now, let me tell you, everybody's qualified, right?
Yeah.
It's just what in your history, what in your past, what about you makes it something so special that you're doing this? And then tell us why you're doing it. So, an example, instead of saying, well, I'm a realist painter and I paint nudes, right?
Okay.
Like, okay, that really sets you apart. Great, awesome. Right? But what if you said, hey, I'm really interested in human anatomy. As a matter of fact, I went to medical school and decided to pursue a career in the arts instead because I loved anatomy so much. And so now I paint the nude figure and through the perspective of anatomy, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm
I
saying?
love
This
that.
is a
Yeah.
pretty much on
Yeah.
the nose. And
Absolutely.
so once you develop this elevator pitch, you could stick it into your bio on social media so that when somebody looks at your profile, they read those few lines, that one line really, and then they get to see all of your work through the way that you curated it for them, right? Through that lens.
I love that. I love that. This is going to be such an exciting learning for people who are listening. And
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who's listening to this episode, why don't you tag Marina and I and Arts to Hearts when you come up with your elevator pitch? What do you say? And maybe
Yeah.
Marina, if you can maybe reshare, or we can if you can, if somebody, if you like your,
That would be so cool. Maybe they put it in their stories,
yes,
right? And they tag you and they tag me and then we'll repost it. I love
yes,
that.
yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
So I'll tag my once when we release this episode, I will tag my elevator pitch for Marina to see. And
Yeah.
anyone who wants Marina to see her work, your elevator pitch, make sure that you, after you listen to this episode, you write your elevator pitch. You start with, let's recall the points. I start with
Why you do
why,
it.
why I do it.
Then what about you makes this super special? Like what about you qualifies you to be an expert on the why?
Perfect. And
And
third,
then what you do.
what I do.
Then tell us, I'm a real, I make
Yeah.
paintings or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that would be so cool. And it's specifically because when we were talking before we started recording, you told me about all the different things you did.
Yeah.
But what really pushed you to do all of those different things? There's definitely a common denominator
Yes.
that is your why. And then you are this beautiful, unique you. and why you're qualified to do this. And I say qualified, I have to think of
Yeah.
another word because we're all qualified to do everything that we're doing,
Right.
but what about you makes it so special? Right. And
Yeah.
this requires a little level of vulnerability. It's
Yeah.
kind of difficult. An artist that I'm working with right now, he was very much, he's from a very different generation, does not want to be vulnerable very much at all. But he finally opened up a little
Gave
bit.
in.
And his elevator pitch was so interesting. And, for privacy, I won't share his name, but
Yeah.
I will tell you what the pitch is. He said that, he's really interested in how the internet has revolutionized the world. And for him, he feels very much blocked. And when he's on the internet, he even feels spaced out because it's not something that is native to him. He wasn't born
Yes.
using the internet.
Yes.
And so he feels excluded from the internet.
Yes.
So in response, he's making abstract paintings that mimic the shapes of space to explain how isolated he feels by the
Oh,
internet.
wow.
Okay, so that, as opposed to, well, I'm an abstract painter, I'm based in this city, you know,
Yeah.
that is a whole different story because when you're saying something like this, it doesn't take very long to say. As a matter of fact, the average elevator pitch takes you 15 seconds to say.
Yeah.
When you're at a party and you say something like this, when you are at a studio visit, when somebody's at
Yeah.
your studio with a studio visit and you tell them this, there are so many questions that come up and
Yeah.
they feel so comfortable around you because all of a sudden you're vulnerable to them. And when you're vulnerable to them, as Brene Brown says, when you're vulnerable, it makes you appear much more powerful.
Right. And I think it also like I mean it's I know that vulnerability has become like a trend or like the millennial thing or something, but I do feel like it's also very uplifting, if not uplifting, like if I don't know, freeing in the sense. I think um, to wear so many layers is very hard, and to project yourself and like to know what to say, when to say, and all of those things. When you just say what is your truth, I think there is very little room for um, what I mean, like going wrong. Like I know sometimes
Yeah.
when like we all try to be like, I'm someone who's very like I would say what I'm feeling, and I don't like to keep too many layers. And
Hmm.
but I know when I do,
Yeah.
I'm just so messed up in my brain. I'm like, what did I say? How should am I saying the right thing? There's no question of right and wrong when I'm saying what I'm feeling, because that's
Hmm.
my truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have no filter, right? I have no filter. But yes, you're right. Why are we wasting so much energy hiding who we are,
That's
right?
right.
When who we are is the reason people talk to us anyway.
Yes.
Right? It's the
Yes.
reason that we build community. And, some of the most successful artists that I've worked with, they're successful because they weren't afraid to hide who they are or
Right.
their community.
Right.
And they actually highlighted who they were. They became vulnerable in their work. Um, and, big shout out to um, an artist that I worked with in the very beginning of the artist advisory. And now she has a solo show opening up in LA.
Oh wow.
And, you know, I'm just so, so happy for her. And she's very, very vulnerable in the solo show, but it comes off as very, very powerful. So
Yeah.
shout out to Aaliyah Schrager.
Oh
Congratulations.
wow.
And, she actually created uh, a performance art piece as a she was like, well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to do performance art on Instagram, and I'm going to be a
Oh,
sexy Instagram
wow.
model. So now it's like almost 7 years ago, she started an account where she was a sexy Instagram model to sort of mock being a sexy Instagram model.
Oh, my goodness.
And it totally took off. It went gangbusters. And
Yeah.
right now that account has over 5 million organic
Oh, my
followers.
goodness.
And on that account, I'm sure a lot of people could judge her because of the way
Yeah.
she poses and all these things. But ultimately, it's a really strong statement and about the way that women are perceived in our era. And I'm so, so proud of her for finally, putting it all together into one solo show
Oh, wow.
under Leah Schrager. And because the personality of the 5 million Instagram person is a different personality. It's Ona Artist, if you guys want to look her
Okay.
up. But, it's because she was so open about who she is. She's so vulnerable. And so it comes off as like super, super powerful. So she's
This
having
is
her solo show in
that is
LA
so
at
amazing.
Gruen Gallery. I don't know when this is going to be released, if it's going to be before or after or whatever, but it's
In
opening,
any case, yeah.
September 2022.
I
So,
hope
yeah.
so. I hope so it's live by then. So anyone who's
Yeah.
listening, I will link her profile and the link to the gallery at least so that you can find her work there. But oh my God, we've had like, we started from astrology and then we've landed to solo shows. Oh my God,
Yeah. I mean, we
this is what
started
I love.
from feng shui, and now we're
Oh
on
yeah.
sexy Instagram models. So
Yes. That's
we're
what I
doing
love
great.
about the arts. I think um, I love the holistic and the perspective in the sense of I've worked in a lot of different like fields and especially like not only just field but also creative fields. But what I really love about being an artist is how it has no boundaries and how your work is so much just more than your work. It's about your life, it's about what you're doing, it's what you believe in, it's the work that you're doing on yourself. And that does apply to other jobs and like stuff as well. But I think I love how much artists are creative people are aware of these things and are interested and then they bet on themselves. I think that's very amazing. And people like you who support and create these structures to handhold of like, to guide them and to be the guidance counselor.
For the art world. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I love that. Thank you so much. I could have talked for hours, hours, but I know that I've taken a lot of time before the call also. So I won't. I don't want to stretch it too much, but I do want to have the rapid fire. What do you
Oh,
say?
yes. I love the rapid fire. And I got to say, English is my second language. And
Oh
I
wow!
one thing that my husband also highlights this in his comedy is sometimes I don't say the right colloquialism. So I always thought the rapid fire was called the thunder round. So, but yeah,
It is the
yeah,
thunder
the
round.
thunder round.
I like the thunder round better than the rapid fire.
Oh, okay. See,
Maybe I need to look at it
brand
again. Yes,
branding, branding.
yes.
Okay. Well,
I'm
anyway,
all for
I'm ready
one.
for the rapid fire.
Yes. So, are you ready? Should we start?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. One, two, three. Here we go. One thing you want to convey through your work in the arts.
That anyone who is dedicated to being an artist can be an artist.
Love that. What's that one word that describes you the best?
I want to say, I'm going to just be honest, powerful.
Yes.
I feel very
Oh,
powerful.
that makes me feel so good. I think that's the beauty about these things. Like when you see people believe in themselves, believe in their skills and all of that, it makes you I don't know, it reflects that on you too. Like, I'm like, if she can do that, I can do that. And I think I love that.
Yeah.
Like, I just love that part.
Yeah.
So thank you for being
Yeah.
powerful so that more women can feel powerful.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
No problem. If you could have a studio, gallery, anything, your creative space, anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh, 100% would be in New York City. I
Really?
could not imagine not being in New York City. I tried living in other places.
You've not been a New Yorker through and through?
No, I was born in Ukraine. I moved to the United States and directly to New York City when I was 7 years old. And then I thought, oh, maybe I would want to live somewhere else. And, I went for longer vacations in different places like Spain, which I really loved Spain.
Yeah.
Specifically, I really liked Sitges, which is outside of Barcelona, but I
Yeah.
liked Barcelona,
I
Madrid.
love Barcelona.
Oh, yes.
I love the spirit.
Yes, yes. And I also really like anything that has a lot of water next to it. So I really enjoyed the Hamptons out here in Long Island, which is in New York State, and Palm Springs is actually not next to the water, but I really liked Palm
Like that.
Springs. I don't know why I thought it was. Yeah. But ultimately, there's no other place that I could see myself than New York City. I really love it here, but I do love so much other parts of the world as well. But
Absolutely.
this is where.
But you find home someday. You find yourself somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Your biggest source of inspiration?
It's supposed to be rapid fire. I gotta say, source, spirit, God, the universe, right? The energy that comes from the universe is my biggest source of inspiration.
I love that. Okay. Who's your favorite woman artist? Any point of time?
It's hard to have just one, huh? Can I just say nowadays I really love Jenna Gribben's work. She's a contemporary artist.
Okay.
I think it's really, really powerful and very sweet in a powerful way. And when I go back in time, I must say similarly, I really like Hilma af Klint.
Of course. I think we love her. Love her.
So cool. I feel like she was also inspired by Source, God, the universe, whatever.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm obsessed with her work.
Perfect. Okay. Who's your go-to person when you're in trouble or in need of advice?
My dog. No. My dog.
I
She
love
talks
that. I
to
have
me.
3. I don't know if you know that. I have 3.
No, they're so well behaved. I can't hear them at all.
Oh, because I can't. Oh, you would have heard them by now because they're not here.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, all my recordings are such that there's so many breaks I need to take because someone decides to bark, someone wants to get off the bed, or something happens, and they would literally, all my recordings are always done with my dogs in the room because there's no other way I know.
Wow. I love that. But I also have to add, I have an incredible community of women around me who I always go to for advice when I really need it. So I go to those ladies out there. Shout out to Nancy, Misha, even the women that I work with as well, like Leah, Stella, and even Victoria.
Yes,
I feel like she gives me good advice as well.
Yeah. Oh, she's amazing. Okay. If you were to meet younger Marina today, what advice would you give her?
Oh, don't dim your light, ma'am.
Um,
Just let it shine, and be confident. Be confident
yeah,
because you're smart and you're right.
I love that. Oh my God, see, you were so good at it.
My thunder round.
Your thunder round, your thunder round. Yes, I think I should rename this to thunder round. I really like it.
Yeah.
I like the word. It doesn't have to be rapid. It needs to be thunder. Who wants rapid? Who wants thunder?
Thunder
Oh,
is
you've given me
powerful.
inspiration. Yes, you've given me inspiration. I will
Well,
brand
thank
it
you.
and give you credits. Inspired
Thanks.
by
Thank you.
Marina.
I love it. That is so great.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Marina. Okay. Before I let you go, can you tell a little bit about what you're currently doing? What's happening? Any new project? Anything that will inspire listeners, that can interest them? Just tell us all the information.
Okay, well, first things first, all of you listeners, I have an amazing thing for you that you can get totally for free on my website. It's called The Answers, a guidebook for artists, and it's very easy to read. It's not long. And if you go to www.theartistadvisory.com, you can download this book if you sign up to my mailing list. And you will get the following in this book. You will get top 3 types of effective Instagram posts, Instagram and website do's and don'ts, how to communicate your intention and elevator pitch, what to put in your Instagram bio, and feng shui tips for artists, right? So
Oh,
you can
wow.
get this free guidebook. It's so easy to read. I know I keep thinking of books and it's like, oh, I don't want to read this. This has pictures, okay?
Oh,
So
wow.
go ahead and get it. It's free on my website,
Yeah.
theartistadvisory.com. And artist is singular, right? There's no S there.
Yes, I will
Um,
link everything in the bio and the show notes of this
Perfect.
episode.
Thank you. And you guys can also follow me on Instagram at _artist_advisory. And one of my biggest, most exciting offerings that's coming up is the Artist Academy. It's going to be the 11th time that I'm teaching this course. We're going to be enrolling soon. And I'll send that link to Sharuka. But
Yes.
for the first time ever, you get to be on a more one-to-one basis with me. There will be 8 pre-recorded modules, and we will meet 10 times over the course of 4 months. We'll meet once every 2 weeks in an intimate live group setting, and you'll meet myself most of the time for Q&A, but you'll also meet experts that I invite. And in the past, I've invited gallery directors who you get to practice your elevator pitch on, curators, art consultants, and anyone who's literally sort of on the other side of the equation who's able
Yeah.
to push you in
Okay.
the right direction. So
Yeah.
that is something that may be really interesting for you guys. And that's also on my website. And once I release this, there's going to be a little bit of mindset, manifestation, and spirituality bundled in there as well. Every time I release the Artist Academy, there's a new sort of like a new theme to it every
I
time.
love
And
that.
so this time we are going to be working a lot on mindset, but it will give you a lot of foundational tools that will really guide you throughout your art career. Anyone who enters this program leaves just like my AirPod just left my ear. No,
Oh my God.
leaves with their a beautiful website in Squarespace. I've developed several templates specifically for artists, and my team can guide you on setting them up. You get to learn the structure of the art world, how to communicate about your work, tips on sales, whether or not you're working with a gallery, how to find your collector base and a major art patron who's going to keep you going, and many, many other things. But ultimately, it's a foundational course, and it is underlined with mindset,
I love
manifestation, and
that.
spirituality as well. So I really, if you're interested, you would be one of over 100 artists who I've worked with already in
I love
this
that.
course.
That's so
Yeah.
amazing. That's so amazing. And I will link everything again in the show notes so that you don't miss this chance and explore and see if that aligns with you, because I do see there's so many exciting things that one can learn. I'm definitely going to check it out. Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Marina. I really had an amazing, I had such a different conversation. I really, really enjoyed. I've learned so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm so, so grateful to be here with you today. And thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
No problem. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You can find all the details and links mentioned in the show notes of this episode available on www.arts2heartsproject.com. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to tag us in your stories and leave us a review here on iTunes or any of your favorite platforms. It really helps us to keep the show going. Thank you so much, and sending you lots of love, and I can't wait to be back here soon again. Bye.